All right, guys, so number 7, the coordinate grid shows parallelogram PQRS, which is this shape here. So then if this shape is rotated clockwise, remember the second hand shows you correctly, that means that you will rotate one turn right. Now, about the origin to create the new. So which rule describes this transformation? Well, because you had your cheat sheet, it was right there for you. But what do we know it's not? Well, we know if this is rotated, then that means the new is XY, but it's going to transform, and your X becomes your Y. Anytime it's a right turn, Y is positive with a negative X, and your X becomes your Y. So we know it's going to have to flip. So then this would be in the wrong place, so we can get rid of A and B because they didn't flip. Now for this one, because we know that one of them would possibly be a negative because it turned one turn, these two are positive. So that would be incorrect. And because you had your cheat sheet, this was the easiest one, and it was D. So there's no reason why anyone should have gotten that one incorrect. Okay, so number 8, the diagram of a person who is 6 feet tall. So this is 6 feet tall for this person. And he's standing on the ground 3 feet away from point P. So here we have 3 feet that he's standing away from P. So a line segment drawn from the top corner of the building to point P creates 2 similar triangles. So here is your other similar triangle here. So this right here is an unknown. So then I know that if I'm looking at this figure, I know that 6 over the height, which is not known, but I do know that what he's standing on to 3 feet to the point P, so then that is 3 feet to the point P. So then that means that this similar figure would be 18 to the P. So now we can kind of maybe work backwards. So I can also say 2 things. I know that what number times 3 will give me 6, or I can divide 6 divided by 3, and what is it going to give me? 2. So 6 divided by 2 gives me 3, so I know 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. So if 3 times 2 gives me 6, this is how you know the 18, but even though it's there, 18 times 2 will give me the height that is missing, but you didn't even need to place that number there. So all you had to know was how to compare the similar figures. So putting it in here, we knew that, once again, his height versus the missing height over the ground he stands on to point P3, also the ground of the similar figure of 18. And that's all you were doing. So we knew it wasn't, what did we know it wasn't? We knew it wasn't 8. No, we knew it was 18. We knew A was incorrect because it wasn't a letter. And 3 was already there. So our best answer choice was 18 and 6. All right, so let's look at 9. A transformation is applied to a figure to create a new figure on a coordinate grid. Which transformation does not preserve congruence is going to be important. When it's not congruent, that means that they may be similar figures. So then, what does not preserve congruence? And I'm going to write on the side the ones that do preserve. I know any time that I am rotating a figure, if it is 270 counterclockwise or clockwise, it's a full turn. And it takes you back to the beginning. So it's 4 turns. So that means this is congruent. A reflection, that means it just flips. That's all that it does. And then you're trying to figure out if it's still congruent. Not if it's just preserved for the figure, but if it's congruent. So then this 2 would be congruent because it just flipped. Because you only want to know preserving congruence. A dilation is either going to reduce or enlarge. So we know that is not preserve congruence. So that will be a not. So the congruence is not preserved because it either got smaller or larger. So we're going to get rid of A, B because they're congruent. Translation only did a slide. So it kept the congruence of the shape. So that one too is congruent. So the only one that did not preserve congruence because it's a similar figure is a dilation. Let's go ahead and look at number 10, another simple one. When you're looking at this particular scale factor triangle, TRW will be dilated. Here we go again. Scale factor of n with the origin as the center of dilation to create the new. Okay, which order pair best represents the location of R prime. So then you didn't really have to pinpoint it, but if it's dealing with the dilation, we knew C and D are adding, subtracting. These are both translations, which is also called a slide. This is multiplying. That's a scale factor of -3. But then here, anytime it's a scale factors are going to be less than 1 or greater than 1. If it's less than 1, that means that it's a reduction. If it's greater, enlargement. So then this is not a scale factor. And your scale factors cannot change and have a letter for it. So then our best answer choice, this made it wrong. Best answer choice was B. All right, so finishing up with 10. Now, with that answer choice being B, now we're going to go ahead and look at 11. So 11 says pentagon VWXYZ is shown on the coordinate grid. And the student reflected, so that meant it was going to be a flip to get the new, but it's across the x-axis. If it goes across the x-axis, that means that your y is going to be negative. So I can already, because it's flipping across the x-axis, and you guys had access, the y is negative. So that means that your original is xy. But then that means that what happens? Your x stays positive because it flipped over the x, but the y changes to a negative. And when I look at this, I'm going to look at what makes sense. Well, what makes sense is that this definitely does not make sense because it has x, but then it has y plus 8. If it's flipping, that would be incorrect. And we're not doing a what? Negative. Let's look at this one. This is a rotation because your x becomes your y and your y becomes your x. So we know that's out. That's a rotation. And this, if it flips across the x, this right here shows that it's flipping across the y-axis. This would be the formula for y-axis. So our best answer choice for this one was A. And that completes this going over the test. So hopefully next week you guys will do well on the test for retake. Remember, in order to retest, you have to come to tutorials. And from there, you can retest, and the highest grade you can get is 75 if you made 70 or below. All right, guys.